It's nice to see you, Rose.
You too.
So nice to meet you. Good to see you. I am hooked on this show already. I cannot wait to see the rest. And you two, I mean, I'm most intrigued, I have to say, by the relationship between your characters and their story.
Awesome.
So I'm curious, and I'll just start by talking about, I think it's episode 3. We see this flashback with these kids who we find out are you guys. So I'm curious how you think their relationship as kids and what happened between them shapes who they are as adults.
You know, that is a question that's been asked several times throughout the course of this day by pretty much every interviewer. So,
well, damn
clearly, no. What that means is that we did our job right.
Yeah. We're grateful for that.
We did our job right. The fact that these two kids crossed racial lines and developed this romance based on, you know, a rescue from something terrible that only she understood, that it informed the rest of our lives and it moves the direction of our story and the way we want it to go, is a tremendous compliment. And it means it's very effective in the storytelling motion that, you know, what happened to us as little kids propelled us into this situation 50 years later. I think it means everything.
Yeah.
And for Rose, the way that she walks within the power and the position that she holds as an ancestral knowledge keeper, a wisdom keeper, and a protector, it all stems back from this summer. She already knew that she was called to this duty, but I don't think she ever expected, you know, love to sideswipe her like first love does. Where you're at that age and the hormones are starting to go and you're starting to understand, you know, what does it mean? What are the difference between girls and boys or whatever those things are? And to have this young man come into her life unexpectedly, and then for them to be bonded by a life and death situation that's incredibly traumatic. When he left such a huge chasm in her heart that she knew, I can never have anybody occupy that space again, because I cannot focus on what I need to do if I have this much love, you know, this much romantic love for somebody else. I love my community. I love Derry. I love, you know, my responsibility. You know, I have a duty to it. But I can't let this thing occupy this love thing, not romantic love.
Right.
Communal love, familial love, but I can't let this occupy my heart. So she's been single her whole life. And so when he comes back in, it's quite the surprise.
What do you think? I mean, maybe it's not necessarily on the page of like what is going through Rose's mind when she sees him again, because he is now part of the system and kind of wants things that are a little like self-serving for the government. Like, what do you think? What is she thinking of him when they reconnect?
I feel like I've been following his career. She's an incredibly intelligent, in tune woman. She knows what's going on with the world. And I think that there was something she saw in him, and I think that's what bonded them so closely, because they're both leaders. They both have a certain way of thinking about the world and themselves, their place in the world, that not a lot of people did, because not a lot of people rise to those levels of power and are kind of created to do that, right? They're kind of born for that. And I think they recognize that in each other. And so I don't think it surprises her that he's risen to the height, you know, that he has, a 3-star general. And the American military, at the tip of the spear of the American military during the height of the Cold War. But I do think she wonders and hopes that the things that they talked about and that she instilled in him, this deep love for humanity and the desire for peace and reconciliation. I think she's hoping that he's carrying this in his heart, even as he's a part of this huge machine.
Yeah. And I found that episode so interesting too, because it was like, you know, for the first 2, I was like, this guy's just like a hard ass and he's going to thwart everything. And then you see when he remembers this like kind of crack in his heart form. And it's like, I was like, oh, I think I love him.
Crack in his heart form. How poetic. I'm so glad that inspired you to say that.
I don't know if that was the right phrasing, but I think you know what I mean.
It's perfect.
But isn't that...
It's perfect phrasing.
Yeah, and aren't we always looking for that next step of like, it's not binary, right? It's not good and bad and evil and this and a villain and a hero. It's like, aren't we all so layered and carrying these things around with us. So it's beautiful that layer is there and that layer resonated with you so deeply.
Yes.
Absolutely. I have to imagine stepping onto a set like this from kind of the mind of Stephen King has to be incredible. And even watching it, there's so many things I'm like, oh, I know there's like little Easter eggs hidden through each episode. Even the showrunner said, if I didn't see it, please go back and look again. So I'm curious for you all, like, stepping on the set, what was the thing you were just like, that is so cool?
Well, hearing the name Dick Halloran was very cool.
Yeah.
Knowing that, there's a guy on board with us that persists throughout this universe and actually in another area for many, many, many years to come. I love a feeling of connectedness between, different stories that offer a through line to every story. To me, that's the best kind of storytelling, is when it makes us feel connected. And when I heard that Dick Halloran was around and he was under my command, that's pretty badass. That tickled me to death.
So badass. I was staying in a hotel in Port Hope where we shot, where fictional Derry lives and has lived throughout the chapters 1 and chapters 2 and now into Welcome to Derry. And I was walking down from the hotel to set, and I walked through all the automobiles, the picture cars. There's the Shawshank bus, the bus to freaking Shawshank. And it's just like, what? Like, this is so, so that was like my welcome to Derry moment. And then you start seeing the incredible background. I don't even want to call them background. They were like characters in the show that you will see that are just completely dressed, head to toe and walking with this kind of 1962 air about them. And then to get to walk into Secondhand Rose, which is so seminal in It Chapter 2, when Bill goes back. And he goes into secondhand roles, and Stephen King in cameo is working behind that counter. So to actually stand behind that counter in Secondhand Rose, where, the capital S storyteller, the auteur, was set, was just a really, really cool moment. And that was my first day on set. So it was like, welcome to Derry.
That's so cool. And I can feel the excited energy for here. So I want to know, what was your first exposure to anything Stephen King? And then I guess 2-part question, what is your favorite?
I guess my first exposure was The Shining. The movie when it came out, and I decided to start reading his books. And I read The Stand pretty early, and I read It pretty early. But I read The Shining is a pretty short book. Those It and The Stand are very long books, but The Shining is pretty short comparatively, and it really blew my mind. And everything that is in that book moves forward, and you can see it in other books. An inanimate object coming to life because of some malevolent force behind it that feeds on fear is a strong theme throughout his books, and how innocence and love seem to be able to overcome it time and time again. So it really goes beyond something that you would call the genre of horror. That's right. Mm-hmm. It's very impactful and a deep study of the human condition. I think his work is amazing.
Agreed. Yeah, it's so, the literary richness is unquestionable. And so to get to marry that with such a popular genre, as horror, is just, it's a really powerful recipe of entertainment and character-driven drama. And it makes for a thrill ride. My first exposure was Carrie, reading Carrie. And then, of course, seeing the film, and I just remember what's happening. I don't understand what's happening right now, at the climax of Carrie. And I would say my favorite still is probably Stand By Me. There's something there's something about being on the bike and being with your friends. And I grew up in rural Oklahoma, in a little town called Idabel, Oklahoma, and that was our life. And I was always at the railroad tracks. And so I kind of felt like, I just felt like this is my story. I understand this story. And I just loved that sense of adventure and coming of age, and how we come together and face, you would call it trauma now, But how do we face these secrets that we carry? And when do we decide to share them with others and kind of move through them or not?
Yeah.
Cujo scared the hell out of me.
Cujo was terrifying.
Cujo is because that's, there's like the 7 stories you can tell. And this is man versus nature, or woman and her kid versus nature. And it's just this rabid dog. And it's just so hopeless.
Yeah.
Ugh. And dog is supposed to be a man's best friend. Cujo's a very disturbing story.
That's the Stephen King way. It's something cute, he's gonna fuck it up.
Right?
Well, that's a sad story.
Yeah,
I keep thinking the dog's gonna get better or the kid's gonna get better from rabies, and they just don't.
I just don't.
Yeah. Well, that is my time already, but thank you so much. Such a joy to talk to you both. I really appreciate your time.
Same here. Thank you.